So for some warnings for this chapter, 1, there will be mentions of violence. 2, bullying/harassment. 3, abuse. There's going to be mentions of some type of power abuse, like you're abusing your power that you have over somebody. And yeah, just violence and everything. It's gonna get intense. I'm telling you, it's gonna get intense. I promise y'all, it's gonna get intense. And I would just be number 4 overall. Just corrupt, a little bit of corruption and stuff like that. So we're just gonna see all of that happening right now. I want to put that a little bit in there just in case. It's kind of stalkerish / someone's sus vibes. Yeah, we'll find out who soon. So anyways, without further ado, that is all your warnings. You have been warned. Have fun watching the video. Hello everybody. So today we're going to be reading Not Crazy to Me, Slasher's ex-nurse listener up in here. So we are currently in chapter 4, but we're going to do a recap, so we're back to chapter 3. Anyways, without skipping a beat and getting straight into the recap. So we get to introduced to Nurse Bolton by Mulaney, and Miss Bolton basically goes around the cells with guards, and we have to observe her when she involves with our patients, about taking them in and out of their cells from place to place. And that's just kind of how it works. So we just got to check on our patients, see what they're doing, see if our patients are safe, secure, etc., etc., etc. And particularly the pair of brothers we're going to be seeing is Bo and Vincent. As you know, Bo is pretty damn hostile and pretty damn rude. We get a warning from Ms. Bolton saying that, hey, don't listen to him. He's just an asshat, etc. So, after the guards got in there, kind of cuffed them up and everything to make sure they wouldn't do anything stupid or dangerous or hurt them anything. Bo went out, didn't like us, kind of made side comments, but eventually kept to himself, thankfully. And, just kind of tried to kind of slow down for his brother, but another asshole guard just kind of kept shoving him to hurry him up, which I kind of was like, damn, bro, at least let him walk with his damn brother, And later on, we ended up taking them to the cafeteria. We entered the cafeteria, and we ended up seeing Danny, which he invited us to his table, and we gladly took in it because Danny is like, he's probably my favorite so far in the story. Anywho, we ended up sitting with Danny, talking with him for a bit. Then we asked him about where we could get lunch. He showed us and complained about how their food was terrible compared to the employees' food, and that we should totally sit with him because the other nurses are boring. So we'll go ahead and went to go get our lunch, but as soon as we went around close to getting our lunch, we see Brahms, which, obviously he's a total sweetheart. He's my second favorite on here. He's the favorite. Okay, he's the favorite. That's it. I have nothing else to say. And he ended up walking with us to, in line to get lunch. Seems like the cafeteria person did not really appreciate that and was like, Brahms, you're not supposed to be here. And we're like, excuse me, and we were just, kind of gentle, but kind of, a little bitchy at the same time. Because, hey, why are you being mean to Brahms for? But eventually we went back to our table to eat. And as you and Danny and Brahms talked, you ended up sharing your food, which they were really surprised but really happy in your offering. And yeah, they ate your food. They pretty much ate your food. And you ate with them. It was all nice, chitty-chatty. And so they ended the cafeteria where the thing buzzed and they had to go. Brahms was the first one to go because he's more of a compliant patient, so he doesn't have to have a full-time guard and him cuffed up everywhere. But Danny, however, does. So Danny goes later. And as we say our goodbyes to Brahmsy and to Danny, we end up going to the very edge of the cafeteria where we see Mikael just kind of not being compliant to his guards about him standing the fuck up, you know what I'm saying? So, we randomly think of something and just nodded yeah to just have a good memory. And then we're like, oh my god, and we're like, oh, I nodded at Mikael. Oh, he totally would not listen to me. Me? Never. And then randomly, as soon as we nodded, he literally stood up and looked at us. And we were like, huh? we were shocked to be surprised. And then as he passed through us and everything, because the guards were like, oddly compliant, I see. Um, he kind of kept looking at us till like he had fully disappeared into the hallway with the guards, so he put back in his cell. And we kind of just, after that, we just kind of went to our room and did what we do best, and BYN. That's the end of the Anyways, we are in chapter 4, checkup. Dear Diary, oh God, that feels too weird to say. I feel like some lovesick teenage girl. I'm YN. Is that how I should start this off? Either way, enough of me getting sidetracked. This journal thing was given to me by the staff. It came with my room. I just didn't want it to sit there collecting dust, so I guess I'll be writing in this. I have an hour and a half of free time before I have to go check up on my patients, so why not spend it on this? I work at the Roswell Asylum and Penitentiary. It's in the middle of absolutely nowhere and houses some of the most dangerous serial killers and murderers in the world. Obviously, one would think they'd hate working here. And sure, it's still only my first day, and I don't know whether the patients are simply putting on an act or not, but it doesn't seem that bad. The good majority of my patients are very kind to me and surprisingly docile. I'm really excited to get to know everyone better. So far, Danny Johnson and Brahms Hellshire have seemed to take a liking to me, and I like them too. They're sweet and kind, helping me get my footing in this new, chaotic environment. I can tell some of the staff aren't happy to work here as I am. One of the nurses in charge of patient transportation seems to hate her job here, and the cook definitely isn't fond of the patients. It makes me sad to know how people are accepting jobs here simply for the pay and not to actually help the patients themselves. I'll just have to do my best to make up for the poor staff members. I don't know how to end this journal entry, so I'll just do it this way. Bye. YN Ellen. You flip your journal closed, staring at the bland gray cover. Were you really going to keep a diary? You sigh, pushing it further towards the back wall. The desk was pressed against, leaning back against your chair until the front feet lifted from the floor ever so slightly. Still, it was only 8 o'clock. You had an hour until you had to make your final rounds to check on all of your patients, and then the lights would be shut out. Maybe it would be a good idea to shower and get ready for bed before the lights out time. Standing from your seat, you make your way over to your dresser, pulling out the top drawer to grab some complimentary shampoo, conditioner, and body wash, along with a new set of scrubs and a towel. You almost forgot your toothbrush and toothpaste, then shut the top drawer and slip on the black slides under the dresser. You step out into the hall after struggling to open the door with your full hands, your door clicking shut behind you as you turn to search for the nurse's utilities. You try to remember the directions Mulaney had given you earlier, retracing the steps to the cafeteria. This time, instead of taking the right towards the eating hall, you take a left and spot a sign reading Nurse's Utilities. Good job, YN. You congratulate yourself for being able to remember where to go, picking up the pace a little as you arrive. You juggle all of your toiletries into one hand, grabbing your keys from your pocket with the other. What key was that again? You had to think for a moment before choosing the blue key, and much to your surprise, you were actually correct. I'm on a roll. You chuckled to yourself. Your memory decided to work for once. The door opened with a creak as you slipped your keys back into your pocket. It's dark in the room, prompting you to glance left and right and search for a light switch. You spot what you're looking for, reaching to flick the lights on before the door clicks shut behind you. Bright LED lights flicker to life, illuminating a large room that reminds you of a pool changing room. Lockers run along the left and right walls. Another cluster of lockers in the center of the room facing you and divided the room into two. Benches sit parallel to the lockers. You drop your things into one of the wooden benches and pass through a little doorway between the lockers. The clipped sound of your slides on the damp tile follows you into the second half of the utilities. Stalls run along the wall to your right. Wider stalls directly ahead of you. You can see shower heads poking out above the wider stalls. To your left are sinks lined up neatly, with pristine mirrors perched atop. You turn back to collect your toiletries, carrying them with you to the showers. Your towel is hung on the floor, on the door, and the rest of your things find a place on the counter space that the sinks provide. Slipping into one of the shower stalls, you find yourself slightly amazed at how clean it really was. The showers at pools, it seems that's what you're comparing these things to now, are always disgusting, but these have obviously been cleaned recently. You strip off your scrubs and start the shower, hurrying to wash your hair and body. The water stays warm for the whole shower. Yet another surprise. And soon you're reaching over the top of the door to grab your towel. You don't feel the familiar fabric. It seems it must be lower down. Letting out a frustrated sigh at how short you are, you stand on the tips of your toes, bending your arm in some off way as you pat around for your towel. Your fingers latch around cool metal the hook of your towel had hung on. Great. You mumble, kneeling down to fish your towel from its place on the floor where it must have fallen. You knit your brows in confusion when it isn't there. And you feel your chest tighten with sudden fear. Someone had taken your towel. You were sure you had hung it on the hook before you're starting your shower, right? Maybe you used up all of your memory abilities on the way here, and remembering what key to use. Unlocking the stall, you peek through the crack as the cold seeps through your skin and makes you shiver more than your fear already was. Hello? You ask in a surprisingly firm tone, scanning left and right. You don't see a single person. With a frown, you blame yourself for the missing towel. Maybe you'd left it by the sink with your other stuff. Well, you obviously don't have your towel, so there's only one real thing to do. As quickly as you possibly could, you dart from the shower stall, grabbing your new scrubs and hurrying back inside once more. Letting out a breath you didn't know you'd been holding, you throw your scrubs onto your damp body despite the discomfort and step back into the bathroom. You can't shake your uneasiness as you approach the sink, grabbing your toothbrush and squeezing some toothpaste onto the end. You brush your teeth as quickly as you can, suddenly desperate to get out of the much too quiet room. You rinse your toothbrush and scoop out all of your things. Spinning on your heel, you let out a startled shriek as a man steps from the locker half of the room, and your things fall to the floor. Oh shit, sorry! The man apologizes quickly, setting your towel on one of the shower door hooks and hurrying to collect your things for you. I didn't mean to startle you. He apologizes again. Uneasy, you kneel to grab your toiletries as well. It's okay, I'm just jumpy. You dismiss, though a certain tremble in your voice betrays your attempted confidence. The man stands alongside you as you grab the last of your things, and he unhooks your towel. Is this yours? He asks, holding it out to you. With a hurried nod, you snatch it up. He had moved it? It was on the bench on the other room. I spent a good 5 minutes debating whether to bring it to you. The man chuckles nervously. I knew you'd want it, but I'm not too good at talking. The boy struggles to find the right words. That's all right. I must have forgotten. You playfully hit the palm of your hand against your forehead, and the man smiles, holding out a hand. My name's Cole. I'm one of the nurses here. You're YN, right? Cole asks as he runs a hand through his short brown hair, a curious look in his ice blue eyes. Yeah, that's me. You smile and a nod of agreement. A moment of awkward silence passes between you, and you force your eyes to look anywhere but him. They land on a clock, and you see that you only have another 30 minutes. You still have to dry your hair, but you could do that in your room now that Cole was here. Ah, shit, I have to go. You dismiss yourself with a nervous smile. Cole nodded, grateful that you'd ended the conversation so shortly. All right, I'll see you around, he says, and you hurry away eagerly. Something about Cole rubs you the wrong way. You were sure you hung your towel on the door. Even if he did hung it, he shouldn't have touched it in the first place. He should have just left it where it was. Because you could obviously hear it. Like, he should have just been, like, saying, like, hey, you left your towel, or, yeah, I'm here. Even when you said hello, he didn't say a damn thing. So, that kind of, it's a little bit too sus. It's a little bit too sus. You were sure you'd hung your towel on the door. You flip out of the nurse utilities. Yeah. Jogging down the hallway, you pass empty cell after empty cell, taking a left just before Norman's and entering your bedroom with a sigh. You make sure to lock the door behind you before plugging in your hairdryer and eradicating any dampness still locked within your locks. It only takes about 5 minutes, leaving you with another 25 minutes to sit on your phone and check any messages you'd received. The 25 minutes passed by, and sooner or later you were standing again, stepping out from your room and into the hallway to check on all of your patients. You weren't sure what exactly to do, and you were relieved to see Mulaney stepping out of her office at the same time as you. Ah, Nurse Ellen! She smiles at you as she locks her office door, slipping her keys away. I'm guessing you're preparing for checkup. All you have to do is peek through their windows. As long as they look okay, you can move on. Her explanation is quick and vague, but enough to get you started. Thank you, Dr. Curtis. You nod, waving as the older woman speeds away to your left. You take a right into the hallway, stopping at Norman's cell. You peek through the window and spot him at his desk, scribbling away with his pencil. You're only looking at him for a moment when he tenses and whips to face the door with a nervous expression, though it softens at the sight of you in the window. Norman waves and wears a small, anxious smile. You return the wave and move on, exhaustion dragging at your bones as you wanted to turn in for the night as soon as possible. You moved across the hall to Brahm's cell, watching the masked man's head jerk up from at the sight of you. He had previously been knitting with expert technique, but the needles were discarded in seconds as he leaped forward from his cross-legged position on his bed to meet you at the window. Hello, Miss YN. Brahm's voice is muffled by the glass and porcelain on his face, making it difficult to hear. Good evening, Brahms. I just wanted to check up on you before it's time for bed. You raise your voice a little so it can penetrate through the glass, tilting your head in question. I'm swell, Miss YN. Thank you for wondering. You try to shift and peer around his towering frame at the knitting project. It looked like he was making a scarf, the longest damn scarf you've ever seen. It trailed along the floor, almost to the other side of the cell. You're good at knitting, you complimented. Even from this far, you can see the intricate pattern the yarn made as it weaved together, create a sort of zigzag pattern down the whole scarf. It's for you. Brahm's eyes glitter with praise, and your jaw almost drops. He takes in your surprise and realizes that you must have think he made it all in one day, rushing to correct himself. I knew a new natty would be coming soon, so I started a few days ago. Somehow, that was still just as impressive. A smile split your features, your eyes glittering with almost as brightly as the emerald ones belonging to Brahms. Thank you so much, Brahmsy! Your smile lingers as Brahms takes a few steps backwards. I'll let you continue with the other patients. I can see you're exhausted. Brahms' words are followed by a giggle. And then he returns and hurries back to his knitting with a wave of farewell. Good night, Brahms. You call through the glass, turning and heading to the cell to the direct right. Through the wide glass wall, you see Hannibal, sitting at his desk sketching with what seemed to look like charcoal pencils. Good evening, Miss Ellen. Hannibal says in his smooth tone. I don't want to hold you here. I'm just doing just fine tonight. I'm glad to hear that, Dr. Lecter. Have a nice night. You leave just as quickly as you had come, crossing the hallway to Danny's cell. He was fast asleep already, despite the blaring LED lights. You smile gently and continue on, reluctant to talk to Bo right away. You start with Thomas and Bubba, checking through both their windows. Bubba simply waves at you, Thomas not even meeting your gaze. The moment you stopped at Bo's window, you could feel his death glare, and the scowl he wore made your heart stop for a moment. He genuinely hated him. He genuinely hated you. You frown sadly, knitting your brows. Good night, Bo. You simply say and move on to Vincent's window. Good night, Vincent. Your words are met with a curt nod from Vincent in his usual spot on the floor. You let out a huff, taking one last glance at Bo through the glass wall and window before you continue on to Jason and Mikaela's cells. Jason is already at the window, masked cheek pressed up against it as he watched you approach. The moment you actually arrived, he shuffled backwards as if you hadn't seen him waiting for you. "Hi, Jason," you greet with a bright smile, his adorable behavior pushing away any negativity Bo had left you with. Jason waves and moves to sign something to you before remembering you didn't know any sign language. You made a mental reminder to buy a book about learning ASL. Yes. The next time you drove home, Jason holds up a singular finger in a gesture that said, "Just a minute." Before turning and hurrying to his desk, he grabs a paper and pencil, hurrying back to you. Pressing the paper to the door, Jason scribbles down something, flipping it to face you. "Hi, YN." You smile at his smiley face and the and the bright glitter in his gray gaze. "Just checking up on everyone before bed. You doing okay?" To answer your words, Jason holds up a thumbs up, nodding his head eagerly. "Good, good." You nod right back. "Well, good night, Jason. I'll see you tomorrow." You give Jason a moment to write his response. "Good night, YN. See you tomorrow." With that, you turn to head to Mikhail's cell, peering through the window. As always, he was working with his papier-mâché, back turned to you. He made no move to acknowledge you, but somewhere deep down, you knew he was being watched. "Good night, Mikhail," you call through the glass, waiting for a response, hoping that he would respond when you were almost sure he wouldn't. As you had guessed, he didn't do a thing. You sigh, disappointed for no reason at all, turning to leave. You walk slowly down the hall, pausing between each step to simply soak in the odd sense of silence that hung over the asylum. The silence was broken by 3 sharp taps from Mikhail's cell. In an instant, you had whipped around, skittering back to the window in an instant. Mikhail was just sitting down once more, and you can't help but smile when you piece together that he had, in fact, leaped up from his seat to tap on the glass in a good night. "I'll see you tomorrow," you call through the glass, turning and almost skipping away, overjoyed. Bo and Thomas were the only 2 that you had to crack through as of now. This job was easier than you had originally thought it would be, and you loved the patients already. You were excited for another day of work tomorrow, and you were excited to get to know each and every patient better and better. Aww. That is so cute, though. That is so cute. So small, but so cute. I don't know. I love it. I love it, bro. I love it. Chapter 5. Breakfast. Bzz, bzz, bzz. "Oh, come on," you grumble, reaching out blindly to smack the snooze button. You swung your arms out towards your nightstand. It whizzed through the air, and you suddenly remember. You aren't at home. You startle awake, sitting bolt upright as recollection trickles back to you. A hospital? The hospital? Your job. You were at work. You let out a sigh, closing your eyes for a moment before shoving your blankets aside. You could remake the bed later. But for now, you needed to silence the heinous ringing. You purposely left your phone out of arm's reach, so you couldn't sleep in. And hey, that tactic seemed to work just fine today. Your bare feet on the corded floor woke you even further, making you shiver. With a simple tap, you shut off your alarm, knowing you had an hour or so before you had to get working. You'd showered just last night, but another quick clean didn't sound like a horrible idea. Your jaws gapped in a yawn as you dug out a pair of clean scrubs from your drawers, rubbing sleep from your eyes and fetching a clean towel as well. Still sluggish, you stepped outside of your room and hurried down the quiet hallways, jumping as the lights overhead blinked to life with a whir of electricity. Illumination let you walk a little quicker with more confidence, and before you knew it, you were standing outside of the nurse's utilities door, sticking a hand into your pocket for your keys. You didn't have your damn keys. That also meant that you were locked out of your room. Shit! You hissed, glancing quickly to your left and your right, as if your keys would grow legs and run towards you. They didn't, obviously, but you did see Cole, the guy that you had met in the nurse's utility room the night before. You smiled tightly, embarrassment burning through you at the sight of another human being and the need for a rescue. "Is there a problem?" He called down the hall, picking up his pace to get to you quickly. Yeah. You chuckle nervously. I forgot my keys in my room and locked myself out. You scratch the back of your neck, averting your gaze as Cole let out an amused snicker. Wow, really? He asked, then hurriedly to add another sentence at the sight of your annoyed expression. Sorry. He rushes out. I've done it myself too. It happens to everyone while they're settling in. Here. Cole pulls out his own keys, unlocking the door to the utilities. I can call down the other caretaker too. She can let you into your room. Identical keys. He steps back and holds out an arm, motioning for you to step inside. Thanks, Cole. You smile and he simply nods. Of course. He slips his keys back into his pocket and his smile fades, face taken over by a serious glare. Hey. He catches your wrist before you can leave. You owe me now, okay? An awkward pause. Your smile fades, eyes glued to his. The only word you can think to explain him is sinister. But then he's smiling again. Any trace of bad intentions gone. I'm just kidding, he says, chuckling. I'll see you around. Cole lets go of your wrist and hurries away, leaving you holding your arm out to your chest, confused and a little scared. You let out a huff, shaking your head, turning to head into the nurse's utilities. The door is released, swinging shut with a click behind you and leaving you in total darkness. The lights. Right. That's important. You run your hand along the wall to search for the switch, eyes wide to decipher your surroundings. Your fingers thump against thump on the wall and find their... Excuse me. Your fingers thump against a bump on the wall, and find their place on a small lever. Flick. The lights come alive with a buzz that almost drowns out the drip drip of one of the shower heads or sink faucets. The floor is almost sticky, damp, and it pulls gently at the skin on your feet as you make your way to a shower stall. You stop in front of a stall door, the same one as last night. Lifting your towel to drape it over the hook for a moment, you hesitate, thinking once more about your towel suddenly disappearing. You had 100% hung it on the hook, right? Okay, maybe you hadn't. That seemed like the thing you would do. But right here, right now, you were definitely hanging your towel on the hook. You hang your new scrubs along with your towel just in case the building owns some mysterious towel snatching demon. The clothes nearby in order to avoid running naked through the place again when you had needed to fetch them from the sink counters. Who knew if the large bathroom would be empty by the time you were done? You weren't taking any chances. Swinging the door swinging shut with a whine of protest, you bolted the stall door in place and stripped off your sleeping clothes, turning to the shower head. A nervous feeling wormed around in the pit of your stomach, and you weren't exactly sure why, chalking it up to paranoia and twisting the handle. Ice cold water cascaded around you, making you jump and press your back against the side of the stall. With a shivering hand, you waited for the water to turn warm, huddling in on yourself as you stepped back into the pouring water. Jeez, you think. Not my day today. You warmed quickly and sped through the shower routine, finishing in a little more than 5 minutes. Shutting off the shower quickly, your anxiety doesn't cease, growing stronger as you reach your hand over the top of the stall door to grab your towel. Before you fasten your fingers around where the fabric should be, you hesitate, chewing on your bottom lip. It's all right. It has to be there. You stand on the tips of your toes, slowly and steady. Your hand reached further and further. You didn't know what to expect, curling around the cool metal of the hooks on the floor. You let out a string of curses, pulling your hand back and stomping your foot in protest. You unlock the door to peek your head out, scanning around. Your shirt you had slept on sat discarded on the damp floor, not where you had left it, and the purple set of scrub bottoms had sat a little ways away as well, but you had no idea where your other clothes or towels were. Quickly, just like the night before, you grabbed the 2 sufficient articles of clothing and retreated, humiliated, back into the shower stall. I swear, if this happened to me, I'd be like, bitch, you take my towel. I put it with rat poison. I hope you like rat poison and poison ivy on your skin. And also, you know what I would do? I would get like one of those plastic bags and just tie everything in there and put it with me in the shower stall. You know, it might get a little wet and whatnot, but it's better than having your shit just taken away randomly. You know what I'm saying? Because that would piss me off. Slipping into the clothes, you had covered your hands with your face and let out a huff. Who the hell kept messing with you like that? You dismissed the odd behavior once more. Now desperate to get back to your room and change into dry clothing that hadn't been previously sitting on the damp, sticky, dirty floor. Slipping from the bathroom stall and out of the nurse's bathroom, you smile awkwardly at the nurse entering the room just as you left, picking up the pace and to scurry back towards your bedroom. Cole rounds the corner from the other end of the hallway, holding the door to your room, almost at the exact time as you had. Perfect timing, he chides, pulling out his keys once more. The caretaker isn't in today, but I grabbed the spare key from the receptionist. He slips it into the lock of your door, twisting it to the side. The door clicks open and Cole steps aside. Don't forget your keys next time. Cole shoots you a playful wink, paired with an obviously flirty smile. Your smile being returned in a much more awkward tone. I won't. Thanks again, you say, pulling your door open. He suddenly catches the door before it swings shut, quirking an eyebrow in your direction. You left the bathroom with less stuff? He asked, tilting his head. For a moment, you swore you saw something flicker across his gaze, a knowing look. And he cracks a confused smile and leans against the door frame like a barricade. Is someone harassing you? Yes, you are. No, I just forgot my stuff in the bathroom. You shrug, letting out a chuckle and hitting yourself on the head with the palm of your hand. You're reminding me of things left and right. You laugh, and Cole laughs too. His much more genuine than your own. Anyways, I should get ready for work. I'll see you around then. Cole smiles somehow wider, uncrossing his arms and stepping backwards, watching you until the door cuts off his vision. And even then, you could sense his presence on the other side of the door for a moment. Only when you were sure he was gone did you get to changing and drying your hair. You finished in record time, with 10 minutes to spare. That was pretty good considering all the morning mishaps. So you settled yourself behind your desk and stared, conflicted, at the notebook on its surface. I can't, bro. I can't get rid of that. That's kind of weird. That's really sus, bro. I'd be telling Miss Mulaney immediately, like, hey, do you know a person named Cole around here? I have a feeling he's been taking my shit, and I'm really getting fucking pissed about it. So if you don't mind just him not, I don't know, taking my shit, I'd really appreciate that. Like, for real. I don't know. I'm personally mad, so. Yeah. Outstretching a hand you pull the book closer and flip to the next vacant page, plucking the pencil from its place beside the journal and letting it hover over the page. Something about keeping a journal felt almost nostalgic, like ripped out pages and snapping LEDs. The scribble and screech of an old dry eraser. You were reminded of movies and summer and sirens and blood, smoke, alcohol, pain. But that was in the past, and now you had to move on. Now you rarely thought of that day. So yes, keeping a journal would be smart and almost nostalgic. Scary, but that was alright. Dear Diary. Yes, that's how I'm going to start this off. This is how I did this when I was younger. I don't plan on letting anyone read this, so it's okay if I humiliate myself every now and then. This morning was almost disastrous. I feel like something isn't right. It's hard to explain. But little things keep making me paranoid and forgetful. Some people here give me pretty bad vibes, but I guess that's my mind screaming, stranger danger. I don't have long to write today, but I'll try and get all of my thoughts down while I can. A lot of my job is supervising other people's jobs and making sure the patients don't get out of hand. And I'm afraid I'll get in the way. It's almost time for the patients to be brought to the cafeteria for breakfast. And that's the first thing on my schedule. I feel excited to see them again, and I think it's a little ironic that I prefer their company over Mulaney's or Cole's, but the mind works how it works, and I'll just go along with it. The patients are nice enough, and they're definitely interesting to be around. I have yet to fall into the rhythm of everything. There's so much to remember compared to my life before this job, which was basically wake up, school, sleep on repeat. I have to remember so many more faces, so many more routines, layouts, uses for tools, or what keys to what. It's all a little overwhelming, but I know I'll get there. I'll get there soon. I miss my family, my mom and dad, but it's time that I move on. So here I'm doing just that. I think I'm doing a pretty good job of it too. You stared at the time on your phone and slammed the journal shut without a goodbye. You could finish the page later, but for now you had to get the day started. You slip into your black slides, which had previously been discarded beside your bed, and hurry to the door, this time grabbing your keys and access card and slipping them into your pockets. You run a hand through your hair to quickly untangle any resting knots, and then slip from your room and into the hallway. It's much more busy now, a nurse and a doctor pushing past you as you exit, chattering anxiously among themselves. Melanie waves at you quickly as she passes as well, but doesn't share a word as she follows after the nurse and doctor, equally urgent. Hurrying towards your patient's cell, you spot Nurse Amanda Bolton with her arms crossed and her smile tight. She surveyed the familiar guards Bruce and Haley as they ushered Norman from his cell. "Good day, Nurse Bolton." You smile standing at her side. "How are things? How's Norman?" The black-haired boy looked towards you at the sound of his name, smiling innocently, though he receives a harsh shove from Bruce as he tries to stop and talk to you. Hale glares at her partner, a silent scolding from treating Norman so harshly. "Things could be better," she grumbles almost inaudibly, then adds with a plastic smile, "mind you. Just peachy. The sun is bright, the patients are cooperating, and I slept perfectly." The false joy oozing from her voice almost made you sick to the stomach. And you flashed her a tight smile and returned your attention to Norman, who was being guided down the hallway, past you and towards the cafeteria, too far to now speak with you unless you ran up to catch with him. You would have to, too, if you hadn't been greeted by another patient first. A tap from your shoulder, you made a turnaround quickly, a smile crawling onto your face as the familiar hockey mask and head tilt. "Good morning, Jason," you beam, hearing Amanda's tired and annoyed sigh from behind you. Jason waves one of his huge hands, the guard at his side standing still and smiling coyly while you spoke to the patient she was bringing to the cafeteria. She was much kinder than Bruce. "How are you?" you ask. Jason holds up a thumbs up with a happy half bounce. "Would you like to walk with me to the cafeteria?" you ask, met immediately with a light nod and a sound that almost resembled of a sort of odd purr. The guard woman at Jason's side set off at a slower pace than you, keeping a few steps behind to give you and Jason some sort of privacy. "A nice day today, isn't it?" It's your turn to tilt your head as Jason raises his hands to sign a happy response, then lets them drop. "I'm going to pick up a book to learn about sign language tonight. We can communicate better then." Jason perks up at your words, stopping in his tracks to turn to you and nod his head, eyes squinted in a contented expression as he claps his hands together. Your own smile widens and you nod your head. "All right, it's settled then. I'm glad you like the idea." Jason steps off once more and you follow right behind. The two of you arrive to the cafeteria. You step away, waving farewell to Jason and promising to see him again soon. Now you rested against the outside wall of the cafeteria until the last of the patients are brought inside. Jason seemed to have been the last of your patients, but you still stuck around to watch the others until the hallways were quiet, in contrast to the cafeteria. You turn to the door and step inside, your stomach rumbling in need for substance. In the cafeteria line, you spot Brown scanning the crowds, noticing him as he notices you, and scampering his way over like an excited kitten, shoulders hunched but eyes bright with glee. "Good morning, YN," says that little boy's voice as he glued himself to your side to wait with you as you get your lunch. "Good morning, Brahms. How has your day been so far?" You tilt your head back to meet his emerald green gaze, yours just as bright and happy as his own. "Splendid! I got to walk here with Danny. It was quite special. They usually keep us separated when we're in the halls." Brahms and you took a step forward with the line as it shifts. "That's great. I'm glad. We can go sit with him if you'd like." Your offer is immediately taken up with an excited "Yes, please," and another step towards in line. The cook from the day before looks just as bored, tired, and disgusted by Brahms' presence as the day before, prompting you to answer with the short, clipped sentences and snappy passive aggression the cook doesn't seem to care for. You get your food and spin on your heel, departing with one last goodbye cook. That comes out a little bit more rude than you'd hoped, although it makes Brahms giggle like a schoolgirl, so you do too. He takes the lead, the patients parting around him to let him pass like light blocked by a tree. You following in the shade it cast and navigating easily because of it. The other patients seemed to be intimidated by his height and obvious strength, and you didn't blame them. Brahms took a seat at the usual table, the same as yesterday, Danny already sitting as well. So you did find her, eh, Bramsy? I told you she wouldn't have left already. Danny holds a hand up in a waving gesture as you take your seat, tilting your head. You thought I'd left? You ask, turning your sympathetic gaze from Brahms to Danny and back once more. No, Danny was just trying to make me look like a baby. You could tell from his tone of voice and the slight waver within it that he had, in fact, thought you were leaving. Well, whether Danny was serious or not, I'm not going anywhere. You comfort, taking a bite of the bland oatmeal you've been served. Yours had a few random fruits scattered atop, which was tastier than Danny's and Brahms. Discolored mush. Scooping up a strawberry and a blueberry, you drop them into Danny's bowl, and doing the same for Brahms, and pressing a finger to your mouth in a hushing fashion. Brahms giggled, mirroring your action with a shushing sound that drew a chuckle from Danny. The three of you ate in silence. The rest of the room too loud for you to hold a conversation without having to yell, until a loud buzzer rang, and the patients started to be escorted one by one. It seemed a low risk. More controlled patients left first, which meant you would see Jason being led out before most of the others. As the room began to empty and the noise levels died down, Danny started to speak. So, who's your favorite so far? Out of me and the other crazes, I mean. He waves his spoon in the air as he speaks, accenting his words. You smile and shake your head, scraping up the last of your own food. I can't pick. You're all too charming. Brahms leans forwards on the table, tilting his head. Am I charming, Miss YN? He asked, tilting his head. His eyes were filled with an almost pleading look. You quirk a toothy grin and nod. Of course you are, Brahms. You're probably the most charming. At your praise, he sits back down, his back straighter than it usually is, and his head raised proudly. His happiness seemed to disperse as he spotted his guard escort beckoning to him from the other side of the room. Oh. He grumbles and stands up. I have to leave now. That's fine, B. Danny waves his hand dismissively, as if to say, don't feel bad. I'll see you around. He holds out his arm, hand balled in a fist, and Brahms bumps his own against it with a giggle before pulling back, mimicking an explosion sound and waving his fingers around. You're doing better already, Brahms. You're gonna be the first fist bump champion in no time. That is so cute. Oh, thank you for reminding me, Google. You're doing better. Excuse me. Excuse me. Danny's own hand, which mimicked Brahms, was now in a finger gun shape. Thank you, Mr. Danny. I'll see you both soon. And with that, Brahms hurried away with a bounce in his step. I'll probably be dragged away too, sweetheart. Danny points out, making you nod. You should go get on with your job. Say hi to some of the other patients. I've noticed Mikey over there showing a little interest in you all morning. You follow the direction that Danny points in. Mikhail sitting his back to you, unmoving. He looked like the textbook, the definition of uninterested. The opposite of what Danny claimed. Shooting a wink, Danny nodded his head. Go greet him. Those Sinclairs and the other twins might appreciate a good morning as well. All right, you nod, waving to Danny. I'll see you around then. Bye, honey. He smiles, waving right back at you as you push your way through the dwindling crowds towards Miguel. Hi, Miguel. You agree as you approach, but he doesn't move a muscle. I just wanted to say hello and good morning, you say, taking a seat beside him as at the head of the table. You vaguely hear a grunt in return, his own sort of response. You smiled. I'm glad you don't hate me like some of the other patients do. He flicks his blue eyes to face you for a split second without moving his head. How could anybody hate you? That's what you can you imagine the action says. You smile wider. I look forward to getting to know you a bit better. You seem very smart and observant. I like that. His eyes flick again. You actually like something about me. Your interpretations would be completely incorrect. You could be completely incorrect, but you kept making them anyways. Anyways, you sigh. I just thought I would stop by real quick. You stand and reach out to pat his forearm, stopping before you do. Instead, you pull your arm back and simply smile. I don't want to intrude on your personal space. I'll see you later, Mikhail. His head seemed to shift, twitching for a moment as if he wanted to watch you walk away, but it stayed in its place with his eyes glued to the tabletop. His latex mask as emotionless as his face most likely would have been underneath. Next, you spot the Sinclair brothers, waving at them, but it seems like you had just missed your chance as they stood up and ushered out of the room. Bubba and Thomas are nowhere to be seen, and you frown for a moment. You'll have to see them later. Then, the next task on your list is at 10:15, so you had plenty of time until then, since it was only 9:30. You follow the Sinclair twins and their guards as they guided rapidly out of the room. Following behind them as they are led in the same direction as you needed to go, or the direction you would have gone if you hadn't heard a wail of distress from your left, down a dark, empty hallway and around a bend at the end. You stop, staring down at as the lights overhead flickered almost ominously. The hallway housing empty cells, clearly unused for the most part, but your suspicions are amplified at the sound of a laugh and another echoing of distress. Half of the screams you turn away and continue on. That isn't your problem, but the other, more moral half shouted that you had to see what was going on. Because what if someone was in danger? Biting your bottom lip, your decision was made for you when you met another. You heard when yet another shout touched your ears. It was almost inaudible, far away and muffled, but they grew louder as you hurried into the hallway as silently as possible. Your gaze hardened with resolve and determination. You can make out voices now, at least 3 of them potentially 4. Picking up your pace while still trying to stay as quiet as possible, you reach the bend in the hallway, slowly to peer around it. At the end of this hallway, even darker than the last, you could see something was going on. 2 figures with their backs turned to you, letting out loud laughs as they held a third figure between them. The figure being held back was struggling, kicking and thrashing in an attempt to escape their grasp and stop whatever was happening, but you couldn't see. You grit your teeth, recognizing the purple scrubs of the 2 captors were in the bland-colored clothing of an obvious patient with messy, long brown hair that seemed vaguely familiar. Shit, that sounds good. We can read one more chapter. I'm not totally crying that I might regret this, but it's okay. 3 more chapters we're powering on. This is going to be a whole hour. Chugga. If y'all asking why there's probably going to be only one video this week, this is the reason why. Anyways, chapter 6, Broken Nose. Come on, half-wit. You're going to help your retard friend? The left captor sneered, spurring on another fit of violent struggling from the patient they held between them. You heard wailing mixed with the loud, angry shouting from the captive patient. Slowly, you crept forwards, a hand over your mouth. The patient threw himself to the left, dragging the doctors with him and slamming the left one against the wall. Although his grip still held and the patient wasn't freed, with the action you caught a quick glimpse of what was previously hidden from you, and you let out a quiet gasp and picked up your pace. The closer you got, the more angry you became until you were mere feet away and could confirm what you thought was happening. Past the captive patient and the 2 cruel doctors, you could see the second patient curled into a ball on the floor, trying to stop a third doctor from kicking him violently or jamming a taser into his sides and shoulders. With every attack, the patient on the ground curled tighter on himself, shaking from fear or anger or pain, or probably all 3. You speak before you can stop yourself. What the fuck is going on here? Your voice can be explained as nothing other than a screech of a demon from the depths of hell. Your gaze ablaze with the same anger that you made. that made you shake. The moment you speak, the men holding the patient whip to face you and catch a glimpse at the patient's face. Your jaw dropping and your breathing ragged. Thomas? The doctor's eyes light up with a sadistic glee and excitement. Hey there, you pretty little thing. One of them purrs, and you clench your hands in tight fists. After we're done teaching these bitches a lesson, we can play a little with you. Your voice catches in your throat so that you can't say anything else, but you wanted to so badly. Instead, since you can't use your words, you burst in a sprint, pulling an arm back and delivering a lightning-fast, devastating punch across the right doctor's face. He let out a scream, and that almost sounded louder than the crack of his nose breaking, and you sent him spiraling right to the ground, releasing one of Thomas's arms. He doesn't hesitate for more than a second as he wrapped his own arms around the left doctor's throat, lifting it up a second later before slamming him viciously to the ground and turning to his brother, Bubba, being beaten senseless on the ground. The one who was hurting him now held out his taser stick like a prayer, taking slow, determined steps forward without a trace of fear in his eyes. You sick fucks! These are your patients! You spit out as the man you had punched leaps to his feet, a scowl on his bloody face. You little bitch! He hisses, then he lunges forward towards you with a crazed expression and a death wish. You prep for another punch, but he's on you first this time, one hand catching your fist in the air, and the other going for your throat and tightening around it like a viper. You pushed across the hallway and against the wall. You're pushed across the hallway and against the wall with such force that the air is pushed out of you. Your vision going dark around the edges as you fought for oxygen, tunneling in on the man's cruel, angry face and blocking out the sounds of a struggle resulting from Thomas and the two doctors in his attempt to save his brother. You try to choke out a sentence, let go, but fail miserably as you rounded your fist against the man wherever you can, finally landing a brutal kick to his weakest spot and making him lose his grip for a moment. That moment is all you needed as you curl in your knee, shooting it out to hit home against his ribs, the force pushing him back just enough for you to struggle out of his grasp. Your vision floods back to you and you turn to Thomas and Bubba, both on their feet. Thomas, however, had a guard on his back and another jamming the taser into his ribs. Bubba trembling on his feet as he tried to cling onto consciousness. Blood covered his face, seeping from his mask. Even from so far away, you could see the faraway look in his eyes and the obvious signs of a concussion. You set your jaw and dive forwards back into the battle, hooking an arm around the doctor's neck who held the taser. Thomas takes his chance and kicks out a knee, connecting the side of the weapon, knocking it from the doctor's grasp. From there, it's easy to pry from the other doctor from their place in Thomas's back. You toss the doctor you had set to the side as best as possible, spinning on your heel, backing up to stand beside Thomas like the second half of a human shield, defending Bubba indefinitely. You guys make me sick. You begin memorizing their names on their tags. All three faced you and your cannibal friend. The taser stick plucked from the ground and held out defensively. You get your ass. You get your asses. I'm going to Mulaney. You'll be fired, you shit rags. You can't find words harsh enough to portray your emotions, so you settle on a withering glare more brutal than you had ever worn before. The doctor had a broken nose, just smiles, letting out a hollow laugh and letting his shoulder go slack. I've been looking for a reason to get fired, be paid severance, and forced out of this fuck zone. These bashful crazy retards are too much for me to deal with now. The moment the doctor said retard, Thomas took a threatening step forwards, raising his hands to throttle him for the nickname you assumed was often used for him. But you hold out an arm, and much to your surprise, he doesn't snap it like you know he could. And instead stops in his tracks. Get the fuck out of my sight, because you know we could kick your ass again. Your words are more than enough for the doctors to let out their chuckles, roll their eyes, and then turn to hurry away. Your heart still hammering in your chest and rage still seep from your voice, much like the tears on your face. Oh, you were crying? Your throat didn't hurt very much despite having been strangled. But you guessed it would have been worse. Shit, it could have been worse, bitch. But I would find out where these guys live. And either I would set the prisoners free that they beat up and personally take them to the house and take care of them, Or I would feed them glass. Like crushed up glass in their food. Yes. Perfection. The doctor would... Excuse me. You guessed it could have been worse. The doctor clearly hadn't wanted to kill you, just to hold you in place or scare you out of fighting. So you were glad for that. Those assholes made you want to scream or cry, which you were already doing, so maybe you could just scream as well. And then a hand is on your shoulder. A huge hand, but it's gentle and light, saving you from your furious spiral. Your head snaps to face its host, and you stare in intense brown eyes, half covered by brown hair. You swallowed hard, letting out a heavy sigh and unclenching your fist. A tired half smile makes its way to your face, and you stand up a little straighter, exiting your offensive stance and immediately turning back to face Bubba. You rush to his side, placing one hand on his back and the other on his upper arm to try and steady him. Thomas leers for a moment and takes a threatening step forwards before stopping, taking his own deep breath and standing normally just like you had. He had apparently written you off as a threat. Are you okay? His voice is quiet, almost a whisper. The question directed at both of you, surprisingly, and his twin brother. Yeah, you say, turning to Bubba to mirror the question once more. He simply nods, and then he's hugging you tightly, pulling you against his chest and placing his chin on your head. Bubba is still shaking, his arms around your torso in a vice grip, almost squeezing the air out of your lungs once more. When he releases you, Thomas places a hand on his shoulder to anchor him, steadying him even further. You guys need to go to the infirmary. You sigh, frowning. What happened? Thomas averted his gaze for a moment before settling back on you and clearing his throat. They hurt him, so I hurt them, he said simply, deciding to elaborate a little more. He wasn't walking fast enough, they said, so they hit him. He panicked and moved to hit back. Instinct. They hit him some more, so I broke those stupid chains and hit him back hard enough to make them never hit him again. But those cowards just had electricity on their side. This had been the most you've heard from Thomas speak, and his voice was filled with rage and danger that making you notice that his wrists weren't locked together like usual. He snapped right through those chains, or so tooth cuffs fall uselessly around each wrist, failing to do their job. Thank you, you said, for hitting them and for saving me. Thomas tilted his head, furrowing his brows. I didn't save you. He sighed, reluctant to continue. You saved us. They would have kept hurting him if you hadn't punched that guy. Bubba nodded along with Thomas's words. A small smile creeps onto your face. Come on, let's go to the infirmary. You don't need chains, just... You pause for a moment. Don't hurt anyone. I'll get blamed. And I'll lose my job, and I don't want to lose my job. Thomas' glare seems almost defiant, rebellious, but a nudge and a pleading glance from Bubba broke him, and he nodded his compliance. Fine. You deflate with a sigh like a balloon, and smile thankfully. Come on. You turn and lead the way, gently tracing the skin of your throat. It didn't hurt anymore, and the bruise would be almost invisible. A little makeup would conceal it completely. The pace was as slow as Thomas supported most of Bubba's weight, but soon enough you arrived at the staircase that led upstairs to the infirmary. Thomas was the one giving the majority of the directions, leading you straight to your destination with very little trouble. You pushed open the door, peeking your head inside and smiling nervously to the woman behind a counter. As Thomas and Bubba stepped inside, she rocketed from her seat and raced to your side. My stars, what happened? She asked, flinching away from the injured Bubba and at Thomas's growl. She pat his arm, staring at him pleadingly, and he let the nurse get close enough to help Bubba to a bed. A fight with another inmate. Thomas cut in, glaring at you to keep you silent. You clamped your jaw shut, furrowing your brow in confusion but not saying another word. Will he be okay? The nurse nods, turning to her desk and dialing a number into a cell phone. Hello, we have 2 inmates here who were all cut up by another inmate. They'll be all right, but I'd like some guard assistance and Dr. Crotus as well. Okay? Yes. Thank you. I'll see you soon. The phone was hung up just as quickly as it was dialed, and the nurse turned to you. You know, These two aren't very safe to be around when they aren't cuffed. The nurse's eyes glistened with fear that you just now noticed, and her posture was tense. One hand hovering over a near button on the desk that read "Emergency" in big blocky white letters. You just smile and nod, shooting a glance at Thomas and Bubba. The latter was already fast asleep, while Thomas sat stiff as a stone on his bedside. "They're just fine, I think," you retort, sitting beside Thomas. The nurse sighs, standing from her seat and hurrying towards the other side of the room to gather whatever supplies she needed to treat the two. "Will he really be okay?" Thomas asked you the same question he had asked the nurse, most likely not believing her. You smile. "Of course he'll be okay. You did really well while protecting him. Poor guy." You lean towards to peer around Thomas's towering form at his equally huge brother. "He'll get better, I promise." "Nurse Hélène," a guard said to you with a flat expression, "thank you for keeping them under control on their way here. You can now leave and tend to your other duties." You nod, spinning on your heel and exiting the infirmary with a wave to Thomas and to the sleeping Bubba. You had been sitting with them for a while now, but finally the guards and Melanie burst into the room with chains and fear. You watch as they cuffed Thomas and Bubba again, and also as Melanie treated their wounds. But then they dismissed and ushered you out of the room. You crossed your arms, watching the door swing shut before hurrying away towards the stairs, then to your room. It was just about 10:15, the time where you had to supervise Danny's escort to one of the complementary classes the asylum held, a photography course. That seemed right up his alley. Also, so the news reports about how he conducted his murders told you. You stopped outside his cell for a few moments before guards came in around the corner with the doctor in the lead. Thankfully, not one of the doctors you'd beaten up. "Ah," the doctor smiles, light reflecting off his bald head and across his bright blue eyes. "You must be Miss Hélène, correct?" "Wonderful to meet you." He extends a hand and shakes yours enthusiastically. "I'm Dr. Lambs. I've been working with Danny for a few years now. I'll have you know, he seems very excited to be working with you." You smile, flattered, and nodded your head in greeting. "Now, he seems more cooperative than he has before, so I assume we won't have many problems transporting him to and from his class. But we always like to keep our eyes out when we are. He can be sly." Dr. Lamb scans an access card and opens the door. Danny already standing just in front of it with his arms extended and his wrists exposed, a smirk on his face. "Hey, sweets," he purrs, winking at you before turning his head to the doctor. "How's it going, Lambsy?" "Just fine, thank you." Dr. Lamb smiles, taking a pair of thick handcuffs and fastening them around his wrist. "Ready to move?" Lamb asks, and Danny nods, his smirk growing. "Sure thing." He strolls past you and Lambs, the guard keeping their gaze on him. "So, hun, how are you coming to Are you coming to my class with me?" Danny asks. It's pretty cool, all the stuff I already know, but I like the projects." "Am I allowed to?" you ask, and to walk stride for stride beside him. Danny nods his head and looks at you through the corner of his eye. "Yep, some patients bring their family and stuff. So I'm sure you can say if I ask real nice." "Well, that's great. I'd love Miss Hélène." You hear Melanie's voice behind you. Stopping to glance over your shoulder, Melanie is hurrying to catch up with you, and as she does, she continues speaking. "We have visitors for Sinclair twins at 10:30, so you'll need to be there for that." And "Oh, come on," Danny whines. "She was gonna say for my photography class." Melanie frowns sympathetically and pats Danny's shoulder. "I'm sorry, she'll have to come another time. They haven't had a visitor in months, so I can't delay it." Melanie smiles apologetically at Danny before turning back to you. "Thomas and Bubba are doing just fine as well. You'll be able to visit them in their cells tomorrow morning." "Thank you, Dr. Crotis." You wave, and Melanie hurries off. "So I guess I'll have to come by next time." Stupid Melanie, always ruining my fun. Danny wears a pout, dragging his feet. You have to sit with me at lunch then." He perks up once more with a preposition, and you smile, nodding. "That's the tradition now, isn't it?" Victory seems to shine in Danny's eyes, and he brightens back up to his normal self. "Good," he beams. "I'll see you then, okay? Bye, sweetheart." he says as you step to the side of the hall, watching while he is ushered into a room labeled Activity Room A. You glance up at the time, 10:15. So you have 15 minutes to do whatever you want. You hurry back towards your room and slip inside with the keys you actually have this time, sitting on the edge of your bed to check any messages that you might have on your phone. As usual, there is nothing. So you opt to glance over your schedule once more. Today, just before lunch, you have to escort Danny to the cafeteria. And then right after lunch, you have to supervise Jason and Norman while they have their outside time. You were excited to see those two again. You didn't know Norman very well as of now, but he seemed very kind and polite. Jason was amazing too, a total sweetheart so far, and you knew he wouldn't change. It was almost difficult to remember that everyone in this asylum were killers, because they had been so nice to you so far. You'd even befriended Thomas, so you had hopes that Bo would come around too. Sure, you broke someone's nose today and saw how corrupt some of the doctors really were here, but that was alright, because you'd defend your patients with your life if you really had to. Maybe you were just as crazy as they were, since it was already a day and they all felt like family. In some weird way, it felt like you knew them all already. Like there was some connection between you and them that was quickly rekindled and blazing into a strong bond. No matter what, you knew you'd cared for them as long as you could. Aw, that is so cute. I'm really happy that we gave some justice to Bubba and Tommy. I don't know exactly why they weren't willing to tell the nurse about what happened with the doctors. Maybe it happened before and they tried to tell them, but they kind of went sweeping it under the rug. And the doctors made it worse. I'm not too sure, but I really do hope that we find out a little bit more of why they didn't say anything, but I don't know if we might. I'm not too sure, but I really do hope we find out. Anyways, who do you guys think the visitor is going to be? For Vincent and Bo. Who do you guys think it's going to be? Do you think it's going to be their family relative? Who do you think it's going to be? Let me know in the comments. Honestly, I don't remember and I don't have actually any clue. So my guess is just as good as yours is going to be. So let me know in the comments down below. But sadly, I'm so sad to say this, but I sadly got to go, y'all. But I do hope you guys enjoyed this video, because it's hella long. But like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more amazing videos, guys. Also, keep in mind that Halloween is coming really, really soon, and I'm so excited, because I have like a little simple plan that I want to do for Halloween, and obviously the intro for Halloween is coming up, so I'm so excited. October is coming really soon. Oh my gosh. October is coming. It's coming. I'm really excited. Only bad part is I gotta be outside early in the morning whenever it's like super cold, like 56 outside. So wish me luck on that. Hashtag marching band. We all suffer, don't we? I hope you guys have an amazing day. But I shall see y'all in the next future video of this series or another one. Bye and peace.